I was standing in the room, surrounded by dozens of screens. They all showed my face. I couldn't believe everything that was going on was real. Whoever did this was a real nutcase. And I guess every one of us is in danger now. Hi, my name's Selena. I'm 18. I'm a college freshman. I live in a dorm. I come from a small town. My parents are simple farmers. They predicted the same life for me, but I decided that was definitely not my thing. So I always tried to study hard. I wanted to go to college and live in a big city, and I did it. But I needed money, and the funds my parents sent me weren't enough to live on. For a couple of months, I could barely make ends meet. I ate pizza ready-to-cook food. Then I decided I needed to find a part-time job, but I didn't want it to interfere with my studies. My only option was to work in the evenings. First, I checked all the open waitress positions. I thought it would be a great part-time job for a girl with no education or any work experience. I went to several places, but every time I didn't like something there. I mean, salary, working schedule, and so on. Or I didn't like the boss who sometimes was sure I would agree to go on a date with him just to get a waitress job in his restaurant. Moron. I was almost desperate. But then, one of my dorm mates said her boyfriend had been working as a bartender in a cool nightclub for 2 years, and now they're in need of waitresses. She said it was a decent place. If the customers drank too much, the security guards would immediately escort them out. I was interested. So, the very next night, I was already at the nightclub, waiting for my dorm mate's boyfriend. He would meet me and introduce me to the boss. I immediately liked the place. It was an expensive, elite club. Everyone and everything looked so posh there. I went into the boss's office and returned to the bar. The secretary told me to wait for a while. I saw people starting to enter the club and have drinks at the bar. Mr. Bolton, the boss, asked me a few questions. Then he asked me to get up and walk around the office. I thought he wanted to make sure I could walk smoothly and beautifully and not drop trays of food and drinks. But after I sat down again in my chair, he suddenly asked me if I could dance. I admitted I was a bit into dancing at school, but I never did it professionally. Then he made me an offer I didn't expect at all. Anyway, Mr. Bolton praised my figure and appearance. He said such beautiful girls like me shouldn't waste their time working as waitresses, because I could get a much bigger salary if I danced in a club. He made it clear right away it was not a striptease or something. He just needed beautiful go-go girls who could dance in the main hall, entertaining guests and encouraging them to dance. Mr. Bolton invited me to the main hall. There were some guests there. They were talking, drinking, and chilling. He showed me some girls saying they'd been dancing for several years in his nightclub. They were more than happy in their working conditions. But recently, one of them got married, and her husband forbade her to work in the club as a dancer. I can't say I immediately liked this idea, but I thought about it for a while. And Mr. Bolton wrote the amount of a go-go dancer fee for one night on his iPhone to speed up my thinking process. Wow. For this money, I would have to run around as a waitress for the whole week at the club, and here just one night. I looked back at the audience. I realized there was nothing to be ashamed of in this work, so I agreed. The very next day I started. Mr. Bolton took me to the dressing room where the girls were changing. I expected them to meet me to tell me how things were going on at work, but they just nodded in my direction and went back to their business. For the first week, I didn't dance in the guest room. I just watched others doing it. Then I tried to repeat the moves in the training room. At first, it looked quite simple. Just dance to the rhythm. That's it. But in fact, it required good physical training and improv skills. It bothered me there was constant silence in the dressing room. The girls never spoke to each other. They were just doing their business. Applying makeup, doing hair, preparing outfits for the performance. I'd gotten used to everyone talking to each other in the dorm. We did everything together. Shared our feelings, discussed boys. So, at first, I tried to make friends with someone. But after a week, I gave up. The only person I could talk to while I was at work was Thomas. Yeah, the bartender who had helped me get the job. One day, I couldn't stand the silence anymore. I asked him what was wrong with the girls. Why were they ignoring each other? Thomas told me there was a terrible competition among the dancers. They were always fighting for a more attractive place in the dance hall. They wanted it for Friday or the weekends as there were more visitors who would give them very good tips. Thomas said there were even some cases when one of the girls sawed off the other's heels or poured a substance on the inside of an outfit that caused scabies, or deliberately left the iron running on someone's outfit. He advised me to be more careful. Normally, these girls bullied newbies like me, until the new girls got stronger and showed their character. I wanted to run away from this club after such a story, but I knew I would be left without a job. Besides, I would never find such a salary anywhere. Maybe if I just don't stand out and keep quiet, I wouldn't be in any danger. I was very nervous before my first night dancing in the main hall. Of course, I was put in a far corner on my first day at the office, but I knew I couldn't screw up. Mr. Bolton was closely watching me, and I could feel his appraising gaze on me. Fortunately, I did well, with no sawed-off heels or scabies. At the end of the shift, Mr. Bolton paid me the promised fee for the evening. He praised me, and on the same day, I saw the first fight in the dressing room. It turned out that one of the girls occupied the dance place of another one, and it was closer to the VIP rooms, so she earned more tips. The girls screamed and almost grabbed each other's hair, but others didn't even think to separate them, just silently watched from the sidelines. The first time, I was scared, but then I got used to it. Before the working shift, the dressing room was filled with silence, and after, there was shouting, fighting, mutual accusations. I tried to be as inconspicuous as possible at these moments, so that I wouldn't get accidentally involved. My life started to get better. I studied, danced, and I earned enough money to support myself. I didn't get enough sleep, of course, but I didn't complain. One day I came to the club earlier than usual. I went shopping at a nearby store and decided there was no point going back to the dorm. The club was still quiet. The staff was just tidying up before the opening. Thomas was counting the alcohol supplies for the evening. I decided I could get some sleep in the dressing room. There was a comfortable sofa there. I fell asleep. But suddenly, I heard a rustling. I was pretending to be asleep. I opened one eye and noticed a man in uniform fixing something under the ceiling. I couldn't see what was behind him, but as soon as he left, I decided to find out. Much to my surprise, I found a security camera hanging from the ceiling. On one hand, it's clear why it was there, but on the other, we changed in this room. Some girls even went naked, and someone watched it all on the screen. I felt uneasy. For some reason, I decided to explore the entire dressing room. I was terrified when I found several more cameras hidden in the other corners, and one was even installed in the mirror. It didn't look like it was installed there for safety reasons. I wanted to ask Mr. Bolton about it, but when I was going to his office, I saw the security room. The door was open. I decided to look in. Fortunately, it was empty. I carefully looked at the security monitors, but I didn't see any monitors showing our dressing room. What? Then, what were these cameras shooting? What were they there for? I was about to leave when I saw a small door in the security room that led to some other place. I glanced around to make sure I was still alone. I reached for the handle, and the door opened. I stepped inside, and then I froze in horror. It was a small room, and it was practically stuffed with monitors. From floor to ceiling, there was a control panel and a monitor in the center. Looking at the computer, I realized the video content from these cameras was being broadcast somewhere outside. The person who did this was a real nutcase. I ran out of the room, but there was a very unpleasant surprise waiting for me in the security office. Mr. Bolton, and he was very angry. Bolton said no one was supposed to know about his little secret. The show was being broadcast live all over the country. He made a lot of money from it. The audience liked to watch how the girls fought, made setups for each other, walked around naked. I said I would go to the police because this was illegal. But Mr. Bolton threatened me if I did. He said he would tell everyone, my parents and the college management, that I was working at the nightclub, and not just as a dancer, but I was doing something more interesting with the VIP customers there. It wasn't true, of course, but he promised to make everyone believe he was right. Now, I don't know what to do. On the one hand, I understand that Mr. Bolton's actions are unacceptable. On the other, I don't want my family and friends to think I make a living selling my body. Tell me, What would you do in my shoes? Would you go to the police? Or would you just quit the club and forget everything like a nightmare? Write your answers in the comments below. Don't forget to like my story and subscribe to the channel. There are many new stories waiting for you. Click the bell button to stay tuned. Bye, everyone.